The The chapter, How, When and Where, is a part of the Class 8 Social Studies syllabus. This chapter primarily focuses on the historical perspective of the development of various aspects of human life, such as transport, communication, and agriculture. Let's have a look at its chapter notes. How important are dates? Dates are important, as they note when certain events happened. This is very important because history is recorded chronologically. It helps to know that one event happened before another event so that one can examine the relationship between events. Dates also serve to mark periods in history. Dates are important to record activities and events. History is about changes that occur over time, finding out how things were in the past and how things have changed. History was an account of battles and big events. It was about rulers and their policies. Historians wrote about the year a king was crowned, the year he married, the year he had a child, the year he fought a particular war, the year he died, and the year the next ruler succeeded to the throne. For events such as these, specific dates can be determined. Try yourself. What kind of events can be determined with specific dates in history? A. Battles and big events. B. Rulers, policies. C. Coronation, marriage, and death of rulers. D. All of the above. Explanation. Specific dates in history help determine a wide range of events, including battles and significant events, the policies of rulers, and important milestones in the lives of rulers such as coronation, marriage, and death. By recording these specific dates, historians can gain a deeper understanding of the chronology and significance of these events in shaping history. View solution. Which dates? The dates we select and compose our story of the past are not important. They become vital because we focus on a particular set of events as significant. The chronology of different personalities' lives marked the different chapters of the history of British India. It is to give each chapter some coherence. It is to tell a story in a way that makes some sense and can be followed. How do we periodize? In 1817, James Mill published a massive 3-volume work, A History of British India. In his book, he divided Indian history into 3 periods: Hindu, Muslim, and British. Mill thought that all Asian societies were at a lower level of civilization than Europe. According to his telling of history, before the British came to India, Hindu and Muslim despots ruled the country. Religious intolerance, caste taboos, and superstitious practices dominated social life. According to him, British rule could civilize India. In this idea of history, British rule represented all the forces of progress and civilization. Historians have divided Indian history into ancient, medieval, and modern. Try yourself. Which of the following is not the period of division of Indian history by James Mill? A. Hindu. B. Muslim. C. Christians. D. 6. Explanation. In 1817, James Mill, a Scottish economist and political philosopher, published a massive 3-volume work, A History of British India. In this, he divided Indian history into 3 periods: Hindu, Muslim, and British. This periodization came to be widely accepted. However, it was later rejected by nationalist historians. View solution. What is colonial? Colonial refers to British rule. British rule brought about changes in values and tastes, customs, and practices. By reading this chapter, you will understand how the British came to conquer the country and establish their rule, subjugating local Nawabs and Rajas. How they established control over the economy and society, collected revenue to meet all their expenses, bought the goods they wanted at low prices, produced crops they needed for export, and you will understand the changes that came about as a consequence. You will get to learn about the changes British rule brought about in values and tastes, customs, and practices. 20. The subjugation of one country by another leads to these kinds of political, economic, social, and cultural changes. It is referred to as colonization. How do we know? Administration produces records. British believed in the act of writing, which produced an administrative culture of memos, notings, and reports. They also carefully preserved important documents and letters. Important records are preserved in all administrative institutions. National Archives of India. In the early years of the 19th century, these documents were carefully copied out and beautifully written by calligraphists, by those who specialized in the art of beautiful writing. By the middle of the 19th century, with the spread of printing, multiple copies of these records were printed as proceedings of each government department. Surveys became important under the colonial administration. The practice of surveying became common. By the early 19th century, detailed surveys were being carried out to map the entire country. Mapping and survey operations in progress in Bengal. A drawing by James Prinsep, 1832. In the villages, revenue surveys were conducted to know the topography, the soil quality, the flora, the fauna, the local histories, and the cropping pattern. From the end of the 19th century, census operations were held every 10 years, which prepared detailed records of the number of people in all the provinces of India, noting information on castes, religions, and occupation. There were many other surveys: botanical surveys, zoological surveys, archaeological surveys, anthropological surveys, forest surveys. Try yourself. The British thought surveys were important for A. Writing history. B. Effective judgment. C. Effective administration. D. None of these explanation. The practice of surveying was very common under the colonial administration. The British believed that a country had to be properly known before it could be effectively administered. The British thought surveys were important for effective administration. View solution. What do official records not tell? Official records will not help us to understand what other people in the country felt, and what lay behind their actions. Records like diaries of people, accounts of pilgrims and travelers, autobiographies of important personalities, and popular booklets are found other than official records. Printing was introduced and newspapers were published and issues were debated in public. Leaders and reformers wrote to spread their ideas, poets and novelists wrote to express their feelings. But, from these sources, history cannot be explained in how the tribals and the peasants, the workers in the mines, or the poor on the streets, lived their lives. Important dates: 1773. Warren Hastings became the first Governor General of India. 1817. A History of British India published by James Mill. 1857. Massive rebel against British rule broke out in 1857. 1920. The National Archives of India came up. Frequently asked